Hyrcanus took also Dora and Marissa, cities of Idumea, and subdued all the Idumeans, and permitted them to stay in that country if they would circumcise their genitals, and make use of the laws of the Jews. And they were so desirous of living in the country of their forefathers, that they submitted to the use of circumcision, and of the rest of the Jewish ways of living. At which time therefore this befell them, that they were hereafter no other than Jews.
Kahala Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakal Kodash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of the great millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, with the house of David reborn again in this generation. And shalom to the 130 Yasharallah, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing our true heritage, we were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to get into a bit of history, because there was a video recently that the elder Manat Zakba played showing a two-third Israelite, ignorant as hell, talking about how we just have to let this Hebrew Israelite thing go, right? And when you go on and you just waste your time listening to this fool's, vaunting and just going into, how this is played out, and it's obvious this guy has no basic understanding of even just general history, right? He's a woke African American, completely destroyed. That being said, it made me think, we haven't done a history lesson in a while, and I thought it was a good topic to get into how these Edomites, the so-called Caucasian race, how they've always had their hand in the cookie jar. They've always tried to get into the house of Israel, right? Now, in this particular case, as you just read from the book of, or should I say the testimony from Flavius Josephus, he was a priest of the temple back when it still stood in Jerusalem, before the Romans took it down, when the Romans came in and attacked it in 70 AD. Flavius Josephus, being the de facto ruler of Jerusalem at the time and also one of the priests of the temple, he was taken hostage and was adopted by one of the Roman families, or of the generals, right? This is where he gets the name Flavius, okay? That's that Roman family that took him in, that after, they conquered Jerusalem, and basically they took Josephus here into captivity, but they kind of adopted him, showed him Rome, and he then in turn wrote the histories of our people for the outside world. Because again, remember, before this, the most part, the world was a closed book. Okay, nobody really understood who every particular people were. Right, only the bigger, larger cities and nations were known, like the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Greeks. Right, and even at that point, there was a bunch of a mixture from Edom, just devastating the original Greeks. But the point being is that Flavius Josephus, wanting to describe and explain who we Hebrew Israelites were to the world, wrote his books, right? The Antiquities of the Jews, which were 20 books, and it goes through the entire story of the Bible, and also basically what happened in history, right, during the period when the Greeks came in and took over, right? Let's go to the Bible timeline. Okay, so when you zoom in, this was around the time when, again, remember, the new Greeks are, come onto the scene. Basically, the Edomites take over the Japhetic Greeks and start calling themselves the Greeks. You got Alexander the Great. He then finds the Israelites, who then, our priests show Alexander, him in the Bible, and how it's prophesied that he would rule the world for a time. And he goes all the way down, right? All the way down to, past Leo Cypriot Africanus, to the time of the Maccabees. Okay, so during this time, you had the de facto rulers of the nation of Israel, because you got to remember, when the southern kingdom was taken to Babylon and then was freed and they came back because the Persians who had conquered the Babylonians had freed them. They were, for the most part, a vassal country. They didn't really have true autonomous control over themselves, hence why there was no king in Israel during this time. But there were leaders of the community. Some of these leaders were people tied to the churches, or I'm sorry, the temple, right? This would be the Hasmonean family, or the family which the Maccabees come from. Okay, Maccabees was the name of one of the sons of Mattathias, right? One of the Hasmonean patriarchs. Okay, well, the whole point being is that when it finally got down to this man here, John Hyrcanus, he was one of the younger brothers who eventually became high priest. Okay, his older brothers who were more honorable when you read the Bible, they were basically assassinated. Okay, and he came into power. Well, one of the things that he did during the time of, ruling over Israel and everything, is that he waged a massive war on the northern kingdom of Samaria, which by that time, the northern kingdom of Israel was already gone, right? We had already been gone for about, I'd say like 600 years, 500 years by the time John Hyrcanus came into power in the southern kingdom of Israel, right? Us Israelites were over here in the Americas being Mayans and building up over here in the Americas and losing our mind over here. While back there in the land of southern Israel, you had John Hyrcanus trying to get control over the lands again. So what he did is he created sieges up north into the land of Samaria, which again had now been populated by so-called Persians, right? They referred to them as Kuthians, but they came out of the land of Persia or Iran. Okay, so those people were up there in northern Israel, and they were referred to as the Sumerians since they had moved into the land of Samaria. And more importantly, John Hyrcanus also had attacked upon the nation of Edom, which by this time they were being referred to as Idumeans or Idumeans. Okay, because again, an Idumean is simply just the Greek way of saying Edomites. Okay, so Esau, being a vagabond, as the curses upon him said he would be, is always trying to find a way to hide himself, to get a new identity. This is another reason why the Caucasian race always say that white people have no culture. Well, they constantly keep leaving the cultures that they established and that they had, because again, they're on the lam. They're running from their identity and who they are. That being that the Caucasian race is predominantly the Edomites of the Bible. And when I say the Caucasians, I'm also talking about the so-called Israelis, which they're the same people. But again, the so-called Israelis decided to go for the gusto and take the identity of the Israelites themselves, right? The true Jews, who we would know today as the so-called Negroes. Well, it's lucky for digressing, Akim. But again, back to John Hyrcanus. As you can see here, he made a terrible mess of the nation of Idumea at this time, which had grown during the Greek captivity over Jerusalem. Okay, well, Hyrcanus had gone through and basically put these Edomites to the sword and told them that if they stop invading Jerusalem and causing problems and live by the law and convert to follow the law, that he wouldn't destroy them completely. And of course Esau did, right? And what came from that? Well, let's actually read the historic account of this, right? This is the Wikipedia page for John Hyrcanus. And again, he didn't look like this, right? He was a so-called Negro, right? He's of the tribe of Judah, I believe, right? Is he the tribe? Or, yeah, Hasmonean. So that would be a tribe of Judah, right? Now, if we go down right here, this talks about the conversion of Edom into the beliefs of the Israelites, right? This is before Judaism. This was simply the Israelites making these Edomites live as if they were Israelites, okay? Following the laws and customs. It says, Hyrcanus also initiated a military campaign against the Idumeans, or the Edomites. During this campaign, Hyrcanus conquered Adora, Marisa, and other Idumean towns. And it said, Hyrcanus then instituted forced conversions on the Idumeans to Judaism. And again, remember, back then that Judaism wasn't even a thing, right? It was simply just following the laws of the Bible, right? Judaism is a totally different thing that these Edomites brought on around like 700 AD, right? Where they started to bring in their Yiddish and their laws and all that stuff, okay? In this case, these Edomites were following the actual laws. They were living like Israelites. It says, this was an unprecedented move for a Judean ruler. It was the first instance of first conversion perpetrated by Jews in recorded history. However, some scholars dispute the narrative of first conversion and believe that the Edomites peacefully assimilated in Judean society. So regardless if these Edomites, willingly started following the laws or not, but it tells you in the Bible, right? Or I'm sorry, not the Bible, the testimony of Josephus, that these Edomites, that they wanted to live in that land, and if John Hyrcanus wouldn't let them go back to the land of Edom unless they started to follow his laws. Right now, he wasn't all nice about it. But either way, if you want to hear the whole story of John Hyrcanus and go into our actual history, okay, because remember, if you're a Negro, Latino, Native American, this is literally our history from ancient times. Okay, this goes back before the Aztecs. This goes back to the ancient land of the Levant. Okay, back when the Southern Kingdom was still in the land of Israel and still in somewhat control. Right, I'll put the link to this video. I've gone through and I recorded all the audiobooks of the Josephus Antiquities, the Wars of the Jews, right? And I put them all together like this in a playlist, so that way they're here for us if we want to read it, right? So there's a lot of history here, Akim, that we could go through, and it's beautiful to get a priest perspective, from the time at least that we were still in the land, okay? But if you want to go here, I go ahead and put in the comments. Just go down here and click on the one that says 1402. Tells you you could actually hear again what we just read or heard, should I say. So other than that, but yeah, that's how these Edomites started to come into the house of Israel. Remember, the 740 AD conversion of Amalek, the top tribe of Edom, into Judaism wasn't the first time when these Edomites tried to come into the house of Israel. Right, the most famous example of this was the wicked King Herod and his family. Right, King Herod got in power, was put king over the Israelites because again he married the Hasmonean women after they killed off all the Maccabees and everybody. The Edomites that had been put into power in a position of control by the Romans, right, which were just other Edomites. They ultimately took the wife or the women of that family, because again that was considered like the leader, the de facto leader families of the nation of Judah. Okay, so when those women married those Edomites, they then had children, and hence you had Edom claiming he was the king of the Jews and whatnot, and this is where we get King Herod, and that's part of the New Testament. So, but yeah, these devils have always been trying to write their names in the book of the law. But I just thought I'd go into history, Akim, to show you, where in history you can find out that, that Herod started to claim that he was a Jew, or that, how that all happened, right, and during what time. So, either way, hopefully this was edifying, Akim. Until next time, I want to give all honor, glory, and praises to Yahweh B'Hashem Yahshai B'Hashem Rukah Kodash. Shalom.